Hello everyone, Bandit here, and Bombshell. I'm uploading another video. This video will be a subjective ranking of the top 10 Survivor tribal councils internationally, including Survivor US, South Africa, and New Zealand. Perhaps unsurprisingly, no Survivor UK tribals have made this top 10 list. Nonetheless, let's get into the video. At number 10, I have the final 6 tribal council in Survivor New Zealand, Thailand. At this tribal, Dave won immunity and Matt was set to win the game with an idol in his pocket. Dave and Matt were also childhood friends and had a strong relationship in the game. Lisa knew Matt was a massive threat and wanted to get rid of him, but was running out of numbers to do so. At this tribal, Tess votes for Tara, Adam and Matt vote for Tess, but Lisa wraps in Tara and eventually Dave. This means Dave votes out his childhood best friend with an idol in his pocket at the final 6 in an insane 3-2-1 vote out. For me, this is one of the most satisfying final 6 rounds ever in Survivor, and is further helped by the satisfying downfall of Matt. At number 9, we have the final 23 of Australian Survivors Champions vs Contenders. Now you might ask how a tribal so early into the game could achieve such a high ranking, and to that I ask, have you watched Australian Survivor? On this season, we had the infamous Russell Hantz, who found an idol on the premiere and was hell-bent on teaching the Aussies how to play the game.
I'm gonna shake things up. I'm gonna show you Aussies how to play the game. These idiots don't know any better. Buckle your belt, cause I'm coming.
So much so, in fact, that he wore his newly found idol around his neck and into tribal. This, as you might expect, caused chaos as a 4-4-2-2 vote occurred, where Damien and Shane received 2 votes each, Jackie and Russell both received 4 votes each, and a revote occurs. At this revote, Damien continues to vote for Jackie despite Russell voting for him, and this causes Russell Hantz to be eliminated 9-1 on the revote, with an idol hanging around his neck. Still to this day, I find this to be one of the craziest votes in Survivor history, and for number 8, we'll be continuing with Russell. At number 8, we have the final 15 round, which takes place when there are 9 villains left. Russell and Rob were looking to take each other out, however a surprise twist at the challenge resulted in one member of each tribe winning individual immunity, and thus they were unable to be voted out at their tribal council. Rob won this immunity, meaning the minority alliance of Russell, Danielle and Parvati needed to target one of Rob's lackeys. Unfortunately for them, it was 6-3, and Rob enacted a 3-3 vote split plan, so no matter who Russell idled, he or Parvati, were getting eliminated. Tyson wasn't the sharpest tool in the Sears box at this stage in Survivor, and just wanted to get the tribal over so he could eat hot dogs. Parvati was a huge threat, and Tyson wanted her gone badly, but Rob had previously ordered him to vote for Russell. At the tribal, in pretty much a suicidal move, Russell plays his idol for Parvati, making her immune and him vulnerable. He receives 2 votes, but Parvati receives 4 instead of the intended 3 because Tyson actually flipped his vote. Essentially, Tyson idles himself out as the remaining 3 votes land on him, and he's eliminated 3-2, all because he voted for Parvati. The fact the minority 3 managed to pull this off is insane, and this cocktail of admirable courage from Russell mixed with Tyson's stupidity results in this being a tribal for the ages. At number 7, we're back to Australian Survivor, as I have the final 18 round up next. This was the first tribal at the swap where there were 4 Aganoans against a solid 5-man original Vavau majority. The minority 4 also were disjointed due to Kat and Rowan's ongoing hatred for one another.
So, my worst nightmare has become reality. Kat's been trying to get me out the whole way. And not only has Kat made the merge, she's made the merge in my tribe.
You're the dictator, and it is laying on the highway.
Knowing she'll be targeted by the majority 5, Phoebe asks Rowan to play his idol on her, and reluctantly he agrees. Phoebe blocks 5 votes and votes for Sue as per the plan. However, Rowan votes for Kat, and Kat plus Christy vote for Rowan, completely ruining any chance to overthrow a member of the majority. Ultimately, this is an insane 5-2-1-1 vote, where Rowan gets eliminated despite being the safest of the minority 4 coming into that tribal at first glance. Number 6 on this list comes from Millenials versus Generation X, and although there were a few I could have picked, I went with the final 10 rock draw. This is only the 3rd rock draw in Survivor US history and contains the most people at a rock draw event. For the setup of the tribal, Zeke and David are leader figures of their respective alliances, planning to take out each other's numbers. Both groups have 5, with Jay, a member of Zeke's alliance, winning immunity and having a hidden immunity idol, and David having his own idol. A semi-live tribal occurs where Sunday tells Hannah and Adam their alliance is voting for Ken. When Jeff asks if anyone has an idol to play, David stands and hands in his, but plays it for Ken due to Adam saying he heard Ken's name being thrown out.
Hold on. They were whispering over here that they want to vote for Ken. Wow. Jeff, the idol is for Ken.
This was misdirection from Sunday, however, as the vote was on Hannah. After a 5-5 tie occurs between Hannah and Zeke, a revote happens where Jessica, a member of David's alliance, considers flipping. She doesn't though, and again there is another tie, this time 4-4. Due to Survivor's rules, Jay and Ken are immune due to having immunity. Zeke and Hannah are granted immunity due to the tie, and the other 6 must draw rocks. Once everyone opens their hand, it is revealed Jessica picked the odd-coloured rock and was sadly eliminated from the game. Honestly, this tribal was incredible with antics and unbearable tension. I could have honestly put it number 1 on this list if it wasn't for Zeke and Brett making fun of David's anxiety leading up to the vote, which makes me feel a bit icky on the rewatch. At number 5, we have the original Merge Tribal Council, which occurred on Season 1 Borneo. I don't know about you, but it's quite wholesome to see this tribal so high on this list. A lot of the older seasons of Survivor struggled to make this list for me due to underwhelming presentation, the fact no advantages can help the minority, and especially in the case of merges, it's largely an us versus them mentality for tribes, resulting in the vote outs not being massive blindsides. Borneo is the outlier though, and a really unique instance. I doubt in fact we'll get a tribal quite as unique again. At this stage of Survivor, alliances were frowned upon and seen almost as unsportsmanlike. Because of this, most of the cast just voted for who they wanted to without mentioning it to others. The only group that sticks is the Taggy 4 that all vote together to eliminate Gretchen. Ultimately, the tribal is insanity, as almost every person available is voted, and the end result is 4-1-1-1-1-1-1-1. This many people being voted for at a tribal hasn't happened since, to my knowledge. And the fact literally anyone coming into this 10-man merge could have been eliminated is why Borneo's merge is so high. Once again, we return to Survivor Australia with the final 23 of Season 2's reboot, Survivor Australia 2017, at number 4. On this tribe, AK was seen as overplaying by trying to convince individuals his rock on a piece of string was a chicken idol and immediately put a target onto his back. In episode 1, Adam was seen as this under-the-radar player, but coming into this tribal, he began becoming paranoid, like digging around for an idol, and even telling Lockie to vote for him at the tribal council if he didn't trust him.
What are we going to do then?
Just vote me out. It's okay.
Huh?
Vote me out. I don't mind.
What do you mean? I'm with you.
I know that.
Why would I vote you out, dude?
Yeah, well, so what?
No, man, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
No, that's, mate.
Then something's up.
Yeah. Coming into a tribal, it was pretty uncertain who would be getting eliminated, especially because when Jonathan asked if anyone had an idol, AK revealed to have it and played it for Jared to gain trust within the majority. This idol find wasn't highlighted to the viewer, and the general viewer assumed Adam had the idol due to him having the idol clue. Hiding the idol find is rarely done in Survivor across its seasons, but I feel this added to the theatrics of the tribal council. The vote that occurred was bizarre, with AK receiving a vote from Kate, Annalise and Tara vote for Kate, Adam, Tarzan, Tessa and Ziggy vote for Annalise, and the remainder voting for Adam. This results in a 5-4-2-1 vote, where Adam is eliminated with not even a majority of the tribe's votes. Still to this day, I'm not 100% certain why Annalise or Kate received votes at this tribal. Nonetheless, it's a fun 2-episode downfall for Adam for sure, and the whole AK storyline is really satisfying this episode as well. At number 3, we're finally talking about Survivor South Africa Philippines, which as a season is just a train wreck, but in a good way. Nothing exemplifies this better than the final 9 tribal council, where 3 of the 4 idols in the game are played. Palesa first plays hers, which then prompts PK to play his idol. The majority were looking to blindside PK this tribal, and this prompts Werner to play one of his 2 idols on himself. What follows is amazing, with PK blocking 5 votes, Tom receiving 1 vote, Shawnee receiving 1 vote from Tony, and Werner blocking the remaining 2 votes with his idol. I feel the presentation of Werner saving himself as the final 2 votes are read for him actually adds to the gravitas of this tribal, as had he not played his idol, he would have gotten idled out by PK. Tony is also incredible this tribal, as much like PK, she was left out of the votes this tribal, and becomes more and more pissed at the majority for blindsiding her.
First vote, PK. Does not count. PK. Does not count.
Am I the only one who's stuck to the plan?
PK. Does not count. PK. Does not count.
Since it was a 1-1 tie, a revote occurs, where Shanae is eliminated 5-2 over Tom. This tribal does continue the pagonging of the Minority Alliance, but it's such a spectacle to me that it deserves bronze. Perhaps a controversial tribal to place second, as I know the results of the other tribals were more wacky, but at number 2 I have the final 12 of David vs. Goliath. David vs. Goliath is the first season of Survivor I ever watched, so perhaps I'm biased putting this tribal so high due to nostalgia, but even to this day I think it's an incredible tribal council. Coming into this tribal, the Davids were against it. They were in the minority 5-8, and although they had an idol nullifier, a vote steal and idol, it was outclassed by Dan, who had 1 immunity and had 2 hidden immunity idols. Alec dropped info to Nick before the tribal about how Christian would be the vote, and Nick passes this on to Davey. When Jeff asks if anyone has a hidden immunity idol, Davey plays his for Christian, correctly blocking the 8 majority votes. However, thanks to some not so subtle negotiation from Angelina, Dan plays one of his 2 idols on her, and she seemed to be the main target of the Davids.
Angelina's got no shame, and
None.
she's like, Dan, idol.
Right.
Idol Dan.
Then after he finally decides to play it, she has the nerve to be like, did you say who it was for?
This was a massive issue, as if all the votes were negated, it goes to a revote where a David other than Christian would have been voted out. As the votes are read, we see Christian reacting to the fact he should have been booted. Then the Angelina votes pop up, which again are blocked, and she is thankful to Dan for playing his idol on her. However, after 2 votes for Angelina, the next vote is revealed for John, and it turns out the minority of 5 split their vote 3-2 in the first successful minority vote split in Survivor history. Again, it goes without saying, John should have been one of the safest people coming into this tribal council, but because of this ingenious move, he has his torch snuffed. There are so many small things that really sell this tribal for me, such as Christian's fake shock for Davey playing the idol on him, juxtaposing Carl and Gabby's real shock when John was eliminated due to them being left in the dark about the vote split. Nick and Davey are also great with their jabbing comments, which seem defeatist in the moment, but are humorous on the rewatch due to them knowing John will get eliminated. Man, what a good tribal council. But there's still one more to cover. At number 1, we have Survivor 41's Merge Tribal Council. Now, I'll be the first to admit I wasn't the biggest fan of Survivor 41, especially considering we had to wait 2 weeks to see this merge episode. But come on, this was incredible. After Liana flips on Yase, the minority 3 of Xander, Evie and Tiffany are up against it. Fortunately, because Erica smashed the hourglass, everyone who won immunity loses it and vice versa, causing both Xander, Tiffany and the rest of their group to win immunity. Ricard also wins immunity at the challenge, causing only Nasir, Evie, Sydney, Danny and Deshawn to be options for elimination. Nasir had his own idol and could have played it on himself, and Xander had an idol he could have played on his ally Evie, which put a spanner in the works. Liana, however, was gifted an advantage earlier in the season, allowing her to ask a person for their advantage, and if they had it, they had to give it to her. With all the idols being public, this means she could just take Xander's idol. Because Shan spilled info on Liana's advantage, the minority 3 knew about Liana's steal and advantage power and attempted to play around it. At Tribal, Xander proudly held his idol for Liana to steal, except it was a fake one he had crafted, and Tiffany had been given the real one in secret. This causes a live Tribal, which often I'm not a fan of, but because they dedicated so much time in the episode to the Tribal, it was easier to follow. I've also seen people saying half the tribe being immune wasn't good TV, and I personally disagree, as I like the huge amount of advantages contrasting with the small pool of people that could be voted for. It makes it a bit easier to follow. Sydney plays her shot in the dark, but it doesn't work out for her, and Deshawn uses his extra vote on Evie. Both are ironic, considering if Sydney didn't sacrifice her vote, she would have been able to force a tie and stay, and Evie was the one to give Deshawn the extra vote that was used on her. Ultimately, a 5-4-3 vote occurs, where Sydney is eliminated, and seeing the Yase 3 make it out of this tribal was really fun. That was my top 10 list anyway. Thank you for watching. If you think I missed any good tribals out, please tell me in the comments, or even write down your own top 10 tribal councils list. On screen now is a sort of honourable mentions, if you will, about tribals that nearly made this list, but were just ultimately pepped at the post by others. As you can see, Survivor has a lot of great tribal councils, and narrowing them down to 10 was no easy feat. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Again, as a small creator, I'd really appreciate it. Consider checking out some of my other videos on the channel, as perhaps some may take your fancy. Anyway, that's all me. Thank you for watching, and as always, peace!